In the last 10 years, we've seen God do amazing things at Discovery. The first space that we met in, it couldn't contain it after multiple services, and we knocked down wall after wall. And then we were at a place where we could finally buy the property, rebuilt the worship center, rebuilt the campus. And even here at this place, at 10 years, we've seen God do amazing things, and we could now get comfortable. Now is the tension where all of us have felt, maybe we can stop here. Maybe we've done enough and God has done enough. But I'm reminded of Ephesians chapter 3, where God says He can do by His mighty power at work within us. He is able to do infinitely beyond all of our dreams and hopes and prayers and desires. We can't stop here. In fact, the mission of God is unstoppable. Job tells God, I know that you can do everything and your plans are unstoppable. We are beginning an unstoppable initiative here at Discovery, where we'll be focusing on, in the next 2 years, 3 funnels of energy, focus, and resources. The unstoppable church, our unstoppable mission, and living with unstoppable faith. Our first focus is on the unstoppable church. In the last 10 years at Discovery, we have seen over 1,500 baptisms. Over 32,000 people have committed their life to Christ at a Sunday service. We've seen over 1,000 people activated in their gifting in serving God on the team. What would it look like if we didn't stop here, but we continue to believe God for greater things? I believe the church is still the answer, that the church is the hope of the world.
My spiritual journey started when I was 19. It was rough. I was pretty much homeless. I felt alone, but now I can sit here and say that I have a life where I truly rely on Jesus. Discovery's made a huge impact in our community. I feel the easy way to find that out is, if Discovery Church wasn't around tomorrow, would that gap be felt? And I would say that that's a resounding yes.
I believe it's time for the church to take back the ground that the enemy has stolen in the area of mental and emotional health. So in this next season, Discovery Church is going to be launching a Christian counseling center and freedom ministries, where we're going to be focusing on breaking the strongholds that are holding people back from living in freedom and fulfilling their purpose.
I struggled with anxiety dating back to probably 3rd grade. And I think that moment that God met me at Discovery and gave me that peace in my spirit and my soul was something that I always prayed for. But He showed up and He gave me that peace.
In the next 2 years, through Unstoppable Church, we're believing to bring in $8 million to support the ministries and the vision of Discovery Church. Our next focus is on unstoppable mission. Jesus said to go and make disciples of all the nations. And in this next season, we are taking that command literally, locally and globally, through our Dream Center, our Mexico missions, and our Uganda missions.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Peter Nalos. I started my own nonprofit called Africa Children's Schools. Much more recently, we started the ministry in the last several years in Uganda. Suddenly, just out of the blue, it was not an audible voice, it was an inner voice, but it was like screaming, really. It was very, very loud. And it was, if you want to see my face, you're seeing it in the faces of these African children. God is passionate about His kingdom, and it's going to have no end, and its growth is going to have no end. And why not be part of it?
Oasis es un lugar de chicos que tienen problemas de conducta, padres que están en la cárcel. La necesidad es de terminar en una iglesia porque se están congregando en un TEN, pero podemos colaborar en terminar esa iglesia. Es un impacto muy importante que nosotros podemos colaborar para que ello suceda. Eso sería imparable, sería como un regadero de pólvora y los frutos se verían
The Dream Center is located here on Union, an area where drugs and prostitution and things like that have ran over the community. The Bible says a church that is pure in God's eyes is a church that is helping the widow, the orphan, the imprisoned, those who are hungry. That is what the church is meant to be. Our heart as pastors of Discovery Church will always be to find where in our community there is a hurt and run to it.
In the last 10 years, we've seen over 60,000 individuals served through our Dream Center. 17,541 households to be exact. We're believing in this next season, we're gonna give more than we ever have to missions. $1.35 million through the Unstoppable Mission Focus. In Uganda and Mexico, God has opened up doors for us to start orphanages, trade schools, and plant churches across the world. We believe that God has blessed Discovery with leadership, resources, systems that can empower the kingdom abroad. The third focus is unstoppable faith. We could choose to stop and get comfortable right where we are, or we can choose to dare to live and walk by faith.
She always handles the finances. So when we first got saved, we would kind of go at it back and forth. I go, how much are you giving? And we had nothing. We were broke. And she's like, yeah, I'm giving the 10%. I'm like, no, we need it. And then after a while, I just like just do it. You know what I mean? And so that's the way it's always been.
If you have any doubt, test him. Test God and see if He has not opened the windows of heaven and pour out blessings that you can't contain.
We all know at Discovery, we're out of room. There's no more walls to knock down. We actually looked for property elsewhere. Where can we grow from here? We had a choice to move or to stay. And we chose to stay. God doesn't have us here for a season. He has us here for a legacy. But what does it look like to expand right where we're at, where there's no more walls to knock down? Well, the first thing is we have to secure the land that we're now leasing. And we're believing God that we're gonna build a brand new 1,250 seat worship center. It's gonna exist on our admin property land. That's gonna open up space in our kids' ministries where elementary age students will now meet in our current worship center. And then early childhood and preschool will meet in the current Discovery Kids building. And probably for the first time ever, our kids will finally have enough space to call their own and to grow into. For this portion of Unstoppable Faith, we're believing to raise $4.15 million to help us start the vision. So here's what we're asking. Over the next 2 years, we're looking to challenge one another to increase spiritual and generosity commitment as we believe in God for what He's calling us to do next. Unstoppable has two goals. Our primary goal is about discipleship, and we want to see 100% engagement. We hope every person and family at Discovery has an encounter with Jesus as it relates to their finances and possessions. And we're believing that every person who does will grow as a follower of Jesus. That's the number one goal of Unstoppable. The secondary goal is financial. When you add up our three priorities, you'll see that we're believing to receive $13.5 million in generosity commitments over the next 2 years. Is that possible? Well, with God's help and your commitment to Discovery, we believe it is. During the next 2 years, we're asking God to provide through you, me, and everyone in our church family a new commitment to generosity and spiritual growth. That's what's going to allow us to accomplish our three initiatives: Unstoppable Church, Unstoppable Mission, and Unstoppable Faith. Some of you have probably experienced campaigns at other churches, and maybe they ask you to give a second gift over and above your usual gift. So what happened is you gave two different gifts to two different funds. We want to simplify that approach because we're not on two separate missions at Discovery. We're on one mission of helping people find and follow God. So every dollar over the next 2 years will go towards the Unstoppable initiative of supporting and advancing the church ministries, the missions and outreach, and the expansion of land and buildings. If we don't do Unstoppable, we project that Discovery would receive $8 million in giving over the next 2 years. So we're asking everyone to pray about growing their giving so Discovery can receive an additional $5.5 million over the next 2 years. which brings us to our $13.5 million goal. My hope is that every person at Discovery will play a role in Unstoppable by making the most significant spiritual commitment and generosity commitment possible. What God has done at Discovery has never been on the back of one person or one large gift. This has been the totality of our church coming together to trust God and give collectively. With Unstoppable, we're not asking you to pay for something. Instead, we're asking you to give out of a heart that is growing closer and closer to Jesus every day. My prayer is that your commitment to Unstoppable will not only impact thousands of lives for Jesus, but it would greatly impact your own life as well, because it's going to cause you and us to rely on God like never before. Veronica and I are all in, and we're never going to stop pursuing God and dreaming big. We invite you to join us and be unstoppable.